Hey guys, welcome back. So in this one, we're going to go ahead and continue building our Next.js front end. So last time we stopped off when we had created a detailed page and it's looking like this. So what we'll be doing now is transform this page here to look like this. So this is going to be the ultimate CSS tutorial. So we're going to be covering some advanced concepts in CSS, things like creating different layers on a page. If you take a look at the background, you'll see that it's an image, but that image is brown. So we're going to have to create a background layer, and then we're going to create this layer on top that has the content. So it's going to be an interesting one. If you're someone who is passionate about CSS and you want to know how to build a UI like this, then stick around. So to start, we want to first fix our title, the head metadata information. So just up here, let's just have a head. So we want to do head, and then let's pass the title. So yeah, we're going to do title. So for the title, we are going to use the title of our campaign. So that's going to be in data.title. So here we can just display a dynamic string. So it's going to be data.title. So let's make sure the head is being imported. So I'm going to go up here and import head. So import head from next head. Okay, so now if we come back here, you can see that our title is being used up here. Let's set the meta description for the page. So we want to do meta name equals description. Then let's set the content. So content, we're just going to use the dynamic description that we have on this very campaign. It's going to be data.description. Now we are going to go ahead and start creating the background layer, the one that has that darkish and then the image as a background. So here I'm just going to have a div called wrapper. So here we're going to have a div. So this div is going to have a class name. So it's going to be class. So we're going to do styles.wrapper. And to style this, last time we included the style that was coming in from the home.module.css, but now we are going to be including one that is going to be detail.module.css. So just go ahead and create it in styles. So over here, we're just going to do a new file. It's going to be detail.module.css. Let's start styling the wrapper. So like we said, we are now creating the background layer that will have the darkish and then the image. So the first thing we're going to need to do is set its height to be full screen and also disable the scroll. So we're going to do height. We're going to do 100 viewport height. So you can see that now, just creating this and giving it a style of 100 VH, it takes off all the visible height of the page. So let's go ahead and give it a background color. So here I'm just going to do background color, and I'm going to use 001101, 001101, and save. Now if you come back, you can see it takes off the whole screen. But notice that we can scroll down. So what we want is to prevent the scroll. So how do we prevent the scroll? There are different ways we can do it, but we're just going to position this fixed. So we're going to do position fixed like this. When we set position fixed, then we want to give constraints like the width. So over here, I'm going to specify width 100%. So I'll do width 100% and save that. And when we come here, you can see now it's taking off 100%. So the next thing we're going to want to do is give it a Z index, because like I said, we're going to be creating two layers. This one we are creating now, and the other one that will have content that's going to be directly in front of the user. So let's give it a Z index. So if you're not familiar with the Z index, what it does is it enables us to position things on top of each other on a web page. So let's give this one 1, and the one with a higher Z index is the one that is close to the user. So now that we have this one done, let's go ahead and see how we can add the background image. So what I'm going to do here is inside the wrapper, I'm going to have another div. So this div, we are going to give it a class of main, so styles.main. So for now it's going to be empty, and let's go ahead and style it and position our image in there. So we're going to go here and do .main. So here what we want is to of course give a background image and make sure that this is taking off the whole height. So I'm going to do background image, and then I'm going to bring in this pixels image here. So when I click on it, you can see it opens here. Now I'm going to leave this link in the description just so you guys can copy it. So now once we set it as a background image and go back here and refresh, you can see that nothing is happening. That's because we need to specify other things. So one of the things we're going to need to specify is the position. So we want to position it absolute. So we're just going to do position absolute, and then position absolute lets us specify exactly where we want it to go. So we want it to be start on the top, so we're going to do top 0. Let's give this a height and a width. So for the height, we're going to need it to take 100% of the parent. Then for the width, we are also going to need it to take 100% of the parent. So let's save that. And now when we come here, you can see that we have our background. It's already looking great. Okay, so one thing we don't want is we want it to be just one. We don't want it to repeat. So here we can just do background repeat. So we don't want it to repeat, so we can do no repeat. Save that. And now you can see it's 1. So one thing you will see here is this is not taking off the whole screen and it is getting stuck on the top left. So if you want it to be in the center and taking off the whole screen, you're going to need to specify the background position and also the background size. So let's specify background size first. So we're going to make it cover everything, the container. So we're just going to do that. Also, let's specify the background position. So background position. So we want it to be center vertically, center horizontally, and save that. So now if you come here, you can see it goes in the center. It's not covering. Let's check over here. This should be size. So background size, cover, save that. Coming here, you can see it takes off the whole page. So at this point, we have not achieved the effect we would want. So you can see this effect is dimmed, it's calm. So on the image, let's go ahead and set the background color and also set some opacity. So you're going to have background color. So for this, it's going to be dimmed one. So it's going to be 001101. I believe we used that somewhere. So also let's set the opacity. So you can do opacity. Then let's set the opacity to 0.08. Save that. Now and when we come back, then you can see that now we have the dim effect and things are now looking calm. Okay, so to get started building out the upper layer, let's actually start with the footer here because it's gonna be tricky to also position it down. So because it's also gonna need some work to position it down. So we're gonna go in our JSX and we will go at the bottom. So at the bottom we're gonna have the footer. So I'm gonna have footer here. So for this footer, we're just gonna have a link that goes to the previous page. So we can have href equals the default route. And then inside here, you know, we need to specify an A, and then the A has to have a text. So you can say go back to list. But since we are positioning everything absolute, we need to also handle its positioning. So let's give it a style here. So we're going to have class name equals styles dot footer. So we want it to be positioned absolute because we want to control where it goes. So position absolute, we want it to be at the bottom. So we're just going to do bottom 0. All right. Let's do left 0. Let's also do right 0, just so we know it has to go on the bottom. So let's give it a width of 100%, just so it takes off the whole width. So, and also let's make the content there white. So it's not showing up because our background layer still has the Z index of 1. So we need to specify a specific Z index that is higher than its background layer, just so it can appear on the top. So we have Z index, so Z index. Let's give it a 2. And now, if we come back here, you can see it's appearing down here. So we actually want it in the center and also want to give it some border top. So here, let's give it a border top. So the border is going to be 1 pixel solid white or wheat, and now you can see that gives it the border. So we want everything to actually go in the center, so we can just flex everything. So display flex and then center everything, justify content center. So that puts things in the center, which is what we want. Now we're going to need to give this some paddings, but the easiest way we can do this is giving it a specific height. So we're going to do 100 pixels for the height. And since we want it to go to the center, we want to align items also. So align items center, just so it is centered both vertically and horizontally. Now we can move on to creating our left and right content. Now to create this, the image is going to be on its own line. And then we're going to have this content on the left and this on the right. So we can flex everything and also control the responsiveness. And after the main, so the main was used to control the image layer. So here we can have another div to hold the content. So we're going to do div class name equals styles dot content. So I'm just gonna do contents, and then inside here, then we can have an image first. So just gonna copy this. So I'm just gonna cut it out. So now we are creating a newer design and put it there. When I come back, you can see it appears there. So we are going to need to style the contents first. So I'm gonna get the contents class and bring it here. So contents. So for the contents, let's make sure everything is 100%. So we can just do width 100%. So let's give it some paddings, both horizontally and also vertically. So we can just have padding here. So top and bottom, we can have like a 7 rem. Then left and right, we have like a 10 rem. Save that, and that's gonna push things. In the middle a bit. So let's style the image very quick because I don't like the way it's looking now. So let's give it a border radius of 100%. So border radius 100%. Let's go here, give it a class. It actually has a class, so that's good. That's already taken care of. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna need to do is after the image, then we are gonna have like a grid that's gonna have content, this content on the left and this content on the right. So after the image, then we're gonna have a div, class name. So this one is gonna be a grid, so we're gonna call it grid. So styles.grid. Let's also have left and right. So here we can have div, class name equals styles.left. So I'm gonna duplicate this to get the right one. So this is gonna be .right. So the title and the description are gonna go on the left. So I'm just gonna come here, copy the title and description. I'm just gonna cut this. So in the left, I will move the title there, but this time the title is not gonna be inside the A, so it's gonna be inside an H1. Just gonna have H1 there. Let's get rid of this. Then the description can keep in the P. So let's give the title a class of title, then the description the similar one of description. So here we're gonna do styles.title. Then here we'll have description. So in the right one, we're gonna have a form. So here let's have a div. I'm just gonna list another one here called write contents. So inside here now we can have like a dummy form which we can later style. So I'm going to have a form here. We are going to have a div that contains this input here, and also the one that will contain the button details, and also this will respect your privacy. So here let's have a div class name. So for this one we can just set the class name to form group, and we're going to style this as we go. Then here let's have the input. So input, the type is going to be email. We want it to have some validations built in, although we're going to be validating it even using JavaScript. So let's give it a name. So name can be email. We are not going to be handling things like on change right now. We are going to handle those in a separate video. So let's have a placeholder. So placeholder here will be enter an email. All right. So let's give it a class name because you're going to need to style it. So class name equals styles.input. So we're going to have a button submit here. It's going to look quite similar. It's going to be an input. But for this class, we can set this one to submit. And here it's going to be an input type. So the input type is going to be submit. And then we want to specify the value. So here we can say value, and then the value can be something like subscribe. So for the classes, we'll have a specific one called button. All right, and also let's have this text here. You see this text for we respect your privacy and subscribe anytime. Let's also have it here. So I'm gonna do P. I'm gonna do a P. Then we have we respect your privacy. Okay, I guess that's pretty much it. Let's take a look at what we have. So when we come here, you can see that we have things, but they are not quite visible properly. We can start styling this and maybe changing the colors to be white and positioning some things from left to right. So we have the left and then the right. So let's go ahead and style the left here. So I'm gonna do .left, and we are just going to want it to take off 50% of its parent. So we did 50%. Also, let's set the color for the contents here. So color white. Let's also style the right to take off 50%. So one thing here is we want to flex everything. We want to flex the left and right to be aside each other. So we want to get its parent and style that. So here we have the right. So this is the right, and this is the left. So the parent is the grid. So here we're gonna have a grid. So dot grid. Now we can make this flex. So display flex. So if I save this and come here, you can see that now this is on the right. So now let's focus on the right content here. We want to give it some margin on the left. So inside the right, we have another div that is called right contents. So we can start from this one. So here we can have right contents. Let's have a margin left. So let's have 6 rem units here, and that's going to give it some space. So now let's start making this input a bit better. So what we want is let's first grab the form group, which is the div that holds it. Let's give it some margin on the bottom. That's going to do 15 pixels. And you can see we have some space there. So for the input, so we are just giving it a font size. We are giving it a font size, and this goes ahead to affect the placeholder and the text that the user enters. So we also change the color of the text that the user enters. So we give it a background of height, we give it some paddings, we give it a border of a whitish border. So let me remove the flex. And most importantly, we give it the height that goes ahead to give it this height. So if we made it big, actually, wanted to make it look bigger, we give it like 85 and then looked like a placeholder there. So this looks good. Now let's style the button. So the styles for the button are actually going to be simple. Remember we gave it a button, I believe, so I'm going to do button here. Then I'm going to put in these classes here. I don't want to type them because it's the same thing. So we give it a color of white, we give it a background of, we give it this background so it stands out. Now this is how it's going to look. So we are getting there. Now let's go ahead and style we respect your privacy to make it look smaller. So if we check the class we gave it, here we need to give it a class. So class name styles, let's call it consent. So for this we can go ahead and a font size of 11 pixels. Let's give it a color like a grayish color. So let's have 787878. Save that, and we need to save this one too. And you can see that now it looks like this. Yeah, looks good to me. So we are done actually. What we need to do is make sure it's responsive. So for the responsiveness, I'm just going to bring in this media query. So down here in the styles, I'm just going to press these styles here. So whenever the screen width goes below 1024, we go ahead and change the flex direction of this build and Uber clone and this form here to become column, meaning that this is going to get stuck. This is going to be moved to the bottom. We also go ahead and reduce the paddings here by like a half. Then we go ahead and make this one to take off 100%. The left, so in this case the left was build an Uber clone and then this description. So we make it take off 100%, and we also make the right take off 100%. And then down, whenever the user goes on the smallest devices, these are like the smallest, we go ahead and hide away the description, just so we can keep the 100% viewport height and we don't enable the scroll. And that's just something you can change depending on how you want to do it. But now if I save this and come here and open this, and I'm just going to come down, you can see what happens here is whenever we leave 1024, we go ahead and make the flex direction column, and we change the width from 50 to 100, both for the right and the left. And then when we go down, and then when we go maximally down, we go ahead and hide away the description. So you can switch this to the way you want, but one thing I wanted you guys to take away is how you can create different layers. So you can create some designs that kind of look unique. So one thing here is I'm not able to focus on the input or even click the button, and that's because the background layer still has the z index of 1, and since our contents don't have a z index that is higher, then we can't go ahead and do interactions because it is behind this background layer. So what you can do here is on the contents. So for the contents, we can just have a z index of 2 since the background has the z index of 1. So we're going to set the z index, and also we need to position it absolute just so it goes in front. So position absolute, and now if you come, you can see we can focus it. One thing I don't like about this input is when we focus it, it gets that highlight. So we can remove that by targeting the focus pseudo selector. So we can have input, then focus. So when focused, we can remove the outline. So we can do outline none. All right. Another thing is when we hover above the submission button, we can change the color a bit. So we can also target the button. We can also target the button hover pseudo class. So dot button hover. Then we can change the background color a bit. I'm going to change it to this. And now you can see when I hover, we get that effect, which I think looks pretty cool.